For 18 years, the interloper has occupied the nest of the magpie, and with a mere cry, that false heiress has my parents demanding an apology from me. With a swift motion, I executed a shoulder throw, placing my brother beneath my feet. I have returned solely for three purposes: to reclaim my fortune, to seize power, and to eliminate the refuse. They presume I am merely a rural mutt, unaware that I am the queen of the underworld. Chapter 1. The Return of the Champion, first to break a dog's leg. A taxi halted before an ostentatious gilded gate. I alighted, the air saturated with the cloying aroma of wealth. The guard at the kiosk regarded me with a disdainful gaze, scrutinizing both me and my faded t-shirt.
Halt.
This is private property, beg elsewhere. Ignoring him, I strode forward. He rushed out, attempting to block my path, his mouth spewing curses. A single glance from me rendered his outstretched hand frozen in midair, as if encased in ice, beads of sweat springing forth on his forehead. An elderly butler in a tailcoat hurried over, his face etched with reluctance, and nodded at me. "Miss Esau, please follow me." He could hardly be bothered to introduce himself. No matter. Soon, everyone here would remember me. Traversing a garden that could stretch for 800 meters, I stepped into the opulent living room of the Yi family. Crystal chandeliers dazzled, disorienting the eye. Three individuals occupied the sofa. A regal woman, my biological mother, Lin Wan, sat poised. Beside her stood a tall, handsome man, his eyes brimming with undisguised contempt. That was my esteemed brother, Yi Mingxian. Centrally positioned, surrounded like a flower in bloom, was a girl in a white dress, her eyes rimmed with red, resembling a delicate flower swaying in the wind. Yi Jiajiao, the false heiress who had occupied my place for 18 years. Upon seeing me, her tears cascaded like pearls from a broken string. "Sister, you've finally returned. I'm so sorry, truly sorry. It's all my fault. I took your place." She wept pitifully, and I felt a twinge of sympathy. Lin Wan immediately embraced her, murmuring soothing words. "Jiajiao, don't cry. It's not your fault. You will always be my good daughter." Yi Mingxian stepped forward, positioning himself like a wall before me, looking down with an air of superiority. "Yisa, is it? Now that you have returned to the Yi family, you must understand the family rules." His voice dripped with arrogance. "You need not envy Jiajiao. She has grown up in the Yi family, receiving the finest education. You, on the other hand, I know you've had a difficult life in the countryside, but that does not justify bringing your bitterness back home." He paused, adopting a condescending tone. "Now, apologize to Jiajiao. Apologize for your mere presence, which has caused her distress for so long." I gazed at him silently, as though observing a jester. Apologize? Upon seeing my silence, Yi Mingxuan's patience evaporated. Frowning, he reached out to shove my shoulder. "I'm talking to you. Are you deaf?" His hand moved swiftly. My reaction was swifter. In the fraction of a second before his fingers brushed my clothing, I seized his wrist with lightning speed. A twist, a bend, followed by a clean and decisive shoulder throw.
Bang!
The sound echoed as my brother, towering at over 6 feet, crashed onto the expensive Persian carpet, sending dust swirling. The screams of Lin Wan and Yi Jiajiao pierced the air. I paid them no heed. I lifted my foot, pressing heavily upon Yi Mingxuan's chest. His face contorted in pain, struggling against my foot, which felt like a mountain, immobilizing him. I retrieved my phone, capturing a photo of his humiliated and pained visage beneath my foot, then sent it to the Yi family group chat, accompanied by the caption, "The eldest legitimate grandson? Is this it?" After completing this act, I leaned down slowly, observing his face, now flushed from suffocation, my voice low yet icy. "Do not speak to me of emotions. They waste money. I have returned for 3 purposes: to acquire wealth, seize power, and dispose of the refuse." My gaze then shifted past him, landing on the now pallid-faced Yi Jiajiao, who had forgotten to cry in her terror. I issued my first command to the trembling old butler beside me: "Remove these 2 pieces of trash from my sight." Chapter 2. One person topples all. Is this what you call a weak woman? The room fell into a deathly silence. The butler's legs trembled, his lips quivering, unable to utter a word. Lin Wan finally snapped back to reality, pointing at me, her fingers shaking like a leaf in autumn. You devil. Manic. Let go of Mingxian." I feigned deafness, applying even more pressure with my foot. Yi Mingxian emitted a muffled groan, his face turning a shade of purplish red. Just then, a furious voice boomed from the entrance. "Stop, you ungrateful wretch!" A middle-aged man in a suit, his face contorted with rage, stormed in.
예고화.
My dear father. Upon witnessing his precious son beneath my foot and his foster daughter on the verge of collapse, his eyes instantly filled with tears. "Let him go," he bellowed, like an enraged lion. I slowly lifted my foot. Yi Mingxian gasped for air like a dying fish.
Ignoring 예고화's murderous glare.
I walked calmly to the bar and poured myself a glass of water. My indifference ignited Yi Guohua's fury anew. "This is insufferable. You think returning to the Yi family grants you freedom to do as you please? Let me make it clear. As long as I am the head of this family, you must abide by the rules." He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Finance department? Freeze all the bank cards just issued to Miss Yisa. She is not to touch a single penny." He believed this would control me. Ridiculous. After hanging up, still unsatisfied, he dialed another number. "Old Zhang, gather all your men. Yes, all the bodyguards. Bring them to the main building. I want this wretch to understand what the Yi family rules truly are." Within 2 minutes, over a dozen imposing bodyguards in black suits flooded in. Each bore a prominent temple, their breathing steady, exuding the aura of seasoned fighters. Rumor had it they were all former special forces. Yi Guohua pointed at me, issuing orders to the captain of the bodyguards. "Seize her. Make her kneel and apologize to Mingxian and Jiajiao." The bodyguards exchanged glances, seemingly taken aback by the prospect of dealing with a seemingly frail girl. Yet orders were orders. The captain nodded, and several of them approached me. "Miss, we apologize." I leisurely walked to the garden entrance, glancing back at them. The outside was spacious, a blatant provocation. The bodyguards' expressions darkened. They encircled me in the garden. Yi Guohua and Lin Wan stood at the entrance, faces gleaming with cruel delight, eager to witness my downfall and pleas for mercy. Yi Mingxian and Yi Jiajiao leaned on each other, their eyes filled with venomous hatred directed at me. I finished my last sip of water and casually discarded the glass. As it shattered on the ground, I moved. My figure was as swift as a cheetah. The first bodyguard had no time to comprehend my movement. He felt a tightening in his throat as I lifted him, using him as a weapon against his companion. The sound of bones shattering was distinctly audible amidst the cacophony of screams. This was not a fight. It was a one-sided massacre. Elbow strikes, knee thrusts, throat locks, broken bones. Each technique I employed was the simplest, yet most lethal of the underground boxing arena's arsenal. In less than 3 minutes, the garden was strewn with bodies, the only sounds being groans of agony. I approached the sole remaining standing bodyguard captain. He gazed at me in terror, as if staring at a monster. I raised my foot, pressing down on his wrist, slowly applying pressure. Crack. The sound of a dislocated wrist made the faces of the 4 spectators at the entrance turn ashen. I leaned closer, observing the pain etched on his face, softly asking, "The rules of the Yi family? From this day forth, I am the rule." Having concluded my words, I rose and strode back to the pallid-faced Yi Guohua. From my pocket, I extracted a card and tossed it onto the table before him, a card of pure black, devoid of any insignia. Attempting to wield financial power over me? A sardonic smile curled at the corners of my lips. "Let us first examine your bank balance and see if it could cover even my smallest expense." Chapter 3. Expelling the Unworthy. This is my domain. That black card, akin to a branding iron, seared itself into Yi Guohua's gaze. He undoubtedly recognized it as the globally limited Centurion Black Card, a privilege reserved for those with fortunes exceeding 10 billion. Without such wealth, one would not even qualify to apply. He was rendered utterly speechless. Shock, confusion, and a hint of terror intertwined upon his face. I had no interest in basking in his expression. The intimidation had already been executed, and now it was time to carry out my plan to eliminate the refuse. I pointed towards the 2 servants, cowering in the corner. "You two, proceed upstairs. Pack every single item from the rooms of Yi Mingxian and Yi Jiaojiao on the 2nd floor." The servants' legs trembled, nearly collapsing beneath them. The young master and young mistress, my gaze swept over them, cold and devoid of any emotion, like a knife cutting into their hearts. They shuddered involuntarily, no longer daring to utter another word, scrambling up the stairs in fear. "You dare. Lin Wan screamed, resembling a protective hen, spreading her arms to block the staircase and obstructing Yi Jiaojiao's path.
Yes, sir.
That is Jiaojiao's room. On what grounds? Yi Jiaojiao hid behind her, sobbing as if she had suffered an immense injustice. I advanced step by step until I stood before them, halting. My height slightly exceeded Lin Wan's, allowing me to look down at her with a gaze that was terrifyingly calm. On what grounds? I chuckled. Legally, I am the rightful heir of the Yi family. In terms of strength, those 10 or so individuals are still sprawled outside. So, tell me, who holds the most power here? Thus, this household is governed by my decree. When I command you to leave, you must leave. Lin Wan was rendered speechless by my words, her eyes filled with hatred as she glared at me. The sound of boxes being dragged upstairs reached my ears. Soon, the two servants descended, hauling several enormous suitcases, packed to the brim with various designer clothes and bags. I stepped forward, lifting one with a single hand, and then, before everyone, hurled it down the staircase to the first-floor hall, as if discarding refuse.
Clang. Bang.
The deafening noise reverberated, sending shivers through the hearts of all present. The suitcase burst open, its contents spilling across the floor, Chanel dresses, Hermes bags. Dior perfumes now lay scattered like refuse upon the gleaming marble surface. This was everything Yi Jiaojiao had enjoyed over her 18 years, now shattered by my own hands. Those are my belongings. Yi Jiaojiao shrieked, attempting to rush forward. I positioned myself in front of her. In her eyes, a flicker of fear emerged for the first time. A stark contrast to her previous fragility. Yi Mingxian struggled to rise from the ground, clutching his chest in shock and fury, yet dared not take another step forward. Fear had gripped him. I approached the captain of the bodyguards, whom I had disarmed, as he was being supported by his subordinates. "What is your name?" I inquired. "Zhang Long," he replied, stifling his pain in a low voice. "Excellent, Zhang Long." I nodded. "From this moment on, you are under my command. Please escort these two out of this villa." Zhang Long hesitated briefly, casting a glance at the ashen-faced Yi Guohua, yet ultimately gritted his teeth and bowed his head to me. "Yes, Mississippi. Those who recognize the times are truly wise." He took 2 uninjured bodyguards, one on each side, to lead the still-dazed Yi Mingxian and Yi Jiaojiao away. "What are you doing? Let me go."
Dad. Mom.
"Save me." Regardless of their struggles and cries, Yi Guohua and Lin Wan remained rooted in place, motionless. They were not unwilling to move. They were simply too afraid. The siblings were dragged out of the villa, thrown through the front gate. Before their eyes, I approached the smart control panel at the entrance and began modifying permissions, deleting fingerprints, changing passwords. Permission modification successful. The cold electronic voice declared their complete expulsion. Outside, Yi Mingxian and Yi Jiaojiao stood helplessly in the night wind, gazing at the closed door. The door that had once symbolized their identity and status was now forever barred to them. A profound dread and humiliation engulfed them for the first time. Inside the villa, I turned to face my pale-faced parents and smiled. "Have you had dinner?" "I am quite hungry." Chapter 4. A family dinner? Merely my buffet. I took residence in the villa's largest and most scenic master suite, once Yi Mingxian's room. The lingering scent of his cologne was still present, sharp to the senses. I instructed the servants to open all the windows and lit the firwood aroma I had brought with me. Soon, my scent enveloped the entire space. I reclined in the spacious jacuzzi, which could accommodate 3 or 4 people, and closed my eyes to relax. Meanwhile, the rest of the Yi family was shrouded in an atmosphere of low pressure. Ultimately, Yi Guohua dared not confront me. He and Lin Wan left the villa in disgrace, seeking accommodation for their beloved children at a 5-star hotel. For the time being, this household was tranquil. The following day, I awoke naturally. Descending the stairs, I discovered Yi Guohua and Lin Wan already seated in the dining room, their expressions dark enough to draw water. It seemed they had not slept well last night. Excellent. I intended for them to lose sleep. Yi saw. Yi Guohua spoke sternly, adopting an imperious tone. "There will be a family dinner tonight, attended by some elders from the family, to formally introduce you to them. Prepare yourself. Do not embarrass the Yi family as you did yesterday." I pulled out a chair and sat down, picking up a slice of toast. "I will not attend." "What did you say?" Yi Guohua's voice rose sharply. I said,
I will not attend.
I leisurely spread butter on my toast, uninterested in meeting a group of elderly men or being treated like a spectacle. Yi Guohua slammed his hand on the table, causing the cutlery to jump. This is not a matter of your consent. It is an order. As the daughter of the Yi family, you must participate. I lifted my gaze to him. It appears you still do not comprehend the situation. This household is now governed by my decree. If I say I will not attend, then I will not. Yi Guohua's chest heaved violently, clearly incensed. After a few tense seconds, he seemed to come to a realization, and his tone softened. Very well, if you refuse to attend. Then you must ensure Mingxian and Zhao Zhao return. They cannot remain in the hotel indefinitely. Oh, have you decided to take a softer approach? I bit into my toast and nodded. That is acceptable. Yi Guohua seemed taken aback by my agreeable response, momentarily stunned. I regarded him and added, they may return. But there are several storage rooms behind the villa designated for servants, which are still unoccupied.
You.
Yi Guohua's face instantly turned a deep shade of crimson. I paid him no further heed, continuing to enjoy my breakfast. Ultimately, the so-called family dinner proceeded as planned. I did not attend, yet Yi Mingxian and Yi Zhaozhao returned. They did not occupy the storage rooms. Instead, Yi Guohua had prepared 2 rooms for them in the farthest building from the main house, a silent compromise. As the dinner commenced, I stood on the terrace of the master suite, observing the lively scene in the main dining room through binoculars. A group of well-dressed men and women raised their glasses, exchanging insincere smiles. Yi Guohua occupied the main seat, delivering a lengthy discourse on family traditions, hierarchy, and the bonds of blood. Each word seemed to strike at me, the rebellious daughter. Unfortunately, I could not hear a thing. I stifled a yawn, finding the situation rather dull, until the servant arrived, bearing a platter. Australian lobster, Kobe beef steak, black truffle pasta. These were the main courses of the evening banquet. I had requested a separate dish from the kitchen. As I savored the exquisite delicacies, I glanced down at the throng below. Their stomachs empty as they listened to Yi Guohua weave grandiose tales. The sensation was rather delightful. Midway through my meal, my phone rang. It was a call from Yi Guohua. I answered and switched to speaker mode.
Yes, sir.
What on earth are you doing? All the elders are waiting for you. You must come down immediately. His voice was low yet brimming with barely contained fury. I dabbed my mouth with a napkin, picked up a piece of steak, and leisurely chewed while speaking into the microphone. On the other end, I could hear Yi Guohua's breathing growing heavier. After swallowing my food, I replied coolly, have you finished? Because I am quite full now. This meal is delightful. Please charge it to your account. With that, I hung up the phone. I could easily imagine Yi Guohua on the other end, fuming to the brink of a myocardial infarction. I rose from my seat and walked to the balcony. Surveying the group below, I lifted the remnants of my red wine and, with a gentle flourish, sent it soaring into the night sky. The crimson liquid traced an arc through the darkness, resembling a lavish rain of blood. In my heart, I conveyed to them, in this household, the one with the strongest fist dictates the rules. Should you disagree, feel free to summon others to test their mettle. Chapter 5. A trash company? Just right for practice. Unable to confront me directly, Yi Guohua and his son Yi Mingxian decided to take a softer approach, or rather, a more underhanded one. A few days later, I attended the Yi Group's board meeting for the first time as the eldest daughter of the Yi family. The conference room was filled with individuals clad in tailored suits, each exuding an air of sophistication. Their gazes upon me were rife with curiosity, scrutiny, and a hint of barely concealed disdain. The tale of how I had interrupted my elder brother's ribcage and expelled the adopted daughter from our home had surely spread throughout the upper echelons of society. Yi Guohua cleared his throat and, in his capacity as chairman, formally announced my return. He then shifted his tone. Little Sa has just returned and is unfamiliar with the group's operations. However, she is quite ambitious and has expressed her desire to contribute to the family. As a father, I am deeply gratified. I observed him impassively as he performed. After discussions with several board members, it was decided to appoint Yi Sa as the general manager of the wholly owned subsidiary, Anya Security, effective immediately. Upon this announcement, an uproar ensued. Whispers buzzed like flies throughout the room. I noticed Yi Mingxian sitting across from me, a smirk of schadenfreude curling at the corners of his mouth. Anya Security, before my arrival, I had instructed my subordinates to investigate all information regarding the E-Group. This company, generously termed a subsidiary, was in reality a standard trash asset. Its primary business involved low-end shopping mall and residential security, plagued by chaotic management and corruption, resulting in 3 consecutive years of losses and debts amounting to hundreds of millions. Within the group, there had long been intentions to divest it, yet a suitable buyer had not been found. Now, that unfortunate buyer was me. They intended to cast me into a quagmire, leaving me to fend for myself. Yi Mingxian rose, feigning magnanimity as he spoke. Esteemed board members, I concur with my father's proposal. My sister has just returned and is still learning the ropes of business. It would be beneficial for her to start with a small company. After all, young people must pay their dues. He glanced at me, grinning like a cat that had stolen a fish. Sister, feel free to proceed. Even if the company collapses, it matters not. I shall bear the losses. His words were flawlessly crafted, showcasing his brotherly demeanor while digging a massive pit for me. All eyes were upon me, waiting for my refusal or an outburst. They anticipated the spectacle of this country bumpkin making a fool of herself. Slowly, I rose from my seat. Meeting the gaze of every individual, I approached Yi Guohua. He slid an appointment letter toward me. I picked it up and, under the scrutinizing stares of those either sympathetic or eager for entertainment, calmly uttered 2 words: I accept. No anger, no resentment, not even a flicker of emotional fluctuation. My composed demeanor left Yi Guohua and Yi Mingxian inexplicably unsettled. Clutching the appointment letter, I turned and exited the meeting room. A trash company? Perfect. Just the right opportunity for practice and to position my own people. They believed this was a form of exile, yet they did not realize that what they had handed me was a blade capable of piercing the very heart of the Yi Group. Chapter 6. The Airborne Queen, the first day of workplace reform. The next day, I drove a rugged black SUV obtained from an undisclosed source and parked it outside the Anya security office. The building was dilapidated, with several tiles missing from the exterior walls. Upon entering the lobby, I was greeted by a blend of smoke and instant noodle aromas. The receptionist, donned with headphones, was engrossed in a drama. Upon noticing me, she lazily lifted her eyelids before returning her gaze to the screen. Inside the company, the atmosphere was even more chaotic. Groups of employees huddled together, chatting, playing on their phones, and watching movies. A sense of lethargy and despair, akin to the calm before a storm, pervaded the entire establishment. I made my way directly to the general manager's office. The door was ajar. A greasy middle-aged man, lounging with his legs crossed, was clipping his nails while boasting on the phone. He was the company's manager, Wang Hai, a distant relative of the Yi family. I knocked on the door. He didn't even look up, impatiently asking, "Who is it? Can't you see I'm busy?" I stepped inside and slammed the appointment letter onto his desk. Only then did he lift his gaze, momentarily taken aback before donning a sarcastic smile. "Oh, if it isn't the young lady. What brings you to our humble abode?" He slowly rose, puffing out his beer belly, circling me as if inspecting an unwelcome guest. "Young lady, someone of your stature has no place in this little shrine. Take my advice. Just lend your name and collect your salary each month. Stay out of the company's affairs, all right?" He aimed to assert his authority over me. I looked at him and smiled. The next moment, I raised my hand and swept everything from his desk, files, cups, and the computer, crashing to the floor with a cacophony.
One high it's my four.
"What are you doing?" I stepped closer, looking down at him. "What am I doing? I hereby declare you fired." His face turned a shade resembling liver, and he pointed a trembling finger at me, shouting, "You dare." I was personally appointed by Chairman Yi. "What do you think you are?" he roared, attempting to grab my collar. I sidestepped, delivering a kick to his knee. He let out a cry, his corpulent body collapsing to the ground. I didn't spare him another glance. I kicked open the office door and turned to the stunned employees outside, announcing in a voice that was not overly loud yet clear enough for all to hear, "From this day forth, I am taking charge of this company. Everyone, gather in the conference room within 5 minutes. Arrive late by even a second or fail to show up, and you need not return tomorrow." My formidable presence and the earlier decisive action left everyone in shock. They exchanged glances before hastily rising, akin to startled ducks, rushing toward the conference room. As for the man still kneeling on the floor, shouting about calling Yi Guohua, I dialed a number. Zhang Long, bring 2 men to Anya Security. There's a piece of trash that needs to be disposed of. 5 minutes later, Wang Hai was dragged out of the company's front door by 2 newly hired bodyguards, much like a dead dog. The entire company was enveloped in a profound silence. I was acutely aware that a new order was commencing to take shape from this very moment. Chapter 7. My Legion, summoned from the underground. In the conference room, over 30 individuals were seated. The previous lethargy and despondency evaporated as each person sat upright, holding their breath in trepidation. Their eyes brimmed with anxiety and unease. I approached the head of the table and took my seat, my gaze sweeping slowly across each attendee. I am Esau, your new employer. I care not for who you were associated with in the past, whose favors you enjoyed, or how long you have lingered in complacency. From this moment forth, I shall impose 3 unequivocal demands. I raised 1 finger. First, absolute obedience. My commands are not to be questioned, only executed. I extended a 2nd finger. Secondly, deliver results. I wish to see outcomes, not processes. Those unable to meet this expectation should take their leave. Finally, I raised a 3rd finger. Thirdly, curb your tongues. Speak not of what should remain unspoken, nor inquire into matters that do not concern you. Otherwise, you shall bear the consequences. Upon concluding my pronouncement, the conference room fell into a silence, so profound that one could hear a pin drop. I announced that the entire company would enter a week-long assessment period. After this week, those deemed unfit shall be dismissed. The meeting was adjourned. I offered no opportunity for questions and exited the room with purpose. I understood that mere intimidation would not suffice to govern a cadre of seasoned veterans. I required a truly sharp blade. Returning to my office, I retrieved a specially encrypted satellite phone and dialed a number. The call was swiftly connected, and a calm, respectful male voice greeted me. It's me, Sis, my alias in the underground fight circuit. The individual on the other end is my most capable lieutenant, codenamed Ghost. Not only is he second to me in combat prowess, but he is also an exceptional manager and intelligence expert. Leaning back in my executive chair, I gazed out at the sky. Ghost, bring our finest team to the capital. He did not question my request, but replied succinctly, understood. How many do you require? 10 will suffice. The strongest and the smartest. Understood. I've opened a new venue and need a few capable individuals to help establish our presence, I added casually. We will ensure the task is completed. After ending the call, I looked out at the towering buildings of the capital. This vast hunting ground would soon become far more intriguing. Overnight, Ghost arrived in the capital with a 10-man elite squad. The following day, when they appeared at the Anya Security Company, the atmosphere within the company became charged. Each of these 10 individuals exuded a fierce aura, their gazes sharp as blades. Clad in matching black combat attire, they emanated an intense scent of blood and fire. They were not mere bodyguards, they were warriors. Lethal machines capable of effortlessly claiming lives on the battlefield. The seasoned employees of the company were visibly shaken, their faces pale as they scurried along the walls. Ghost entered my office and offered a nod of respect befitting the underground world. The Ghost team has arrived to report. I nodded in acknowledgement. Excellent. From this day forth, you shall be the core strength of this company. My Legion had officially assembled. This security company, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, would undergo a profound transformation starting today. It would no longer be known as Anya Security. It would become my sharpest blade in the city, a private armed contractor that was efficient, lethal, and capable of resolving any trouble. Chapter 8. The bidding scene. Crushing the competition with might. Opportunity soon presented itself. The titan of the tech industry in the capital, Chairman Chen of Xingchen Technology, had recently encountered a significant dilemma. His company had developed a groundbreaking AI chip, with the prototype nearing the final stages of testing. To guard against industrial espionage and sabotage from competitors, they planned to host a small internal auction, requiring the highest level of security services. The stakes for this security assignment were unprecedented, and the remuneration promised astronomical figures. Once the news broke, every top security firm in the capital sprang into action, including Yeshield, another star security enterprise under the Yi Group, managed by Yi Mingxian. Determined to secure this contract, Yi Mingxian had spent over half a month preparing, crafting hundreds of pages of extravagant PPT, intent on winning. When he learned that my fledgling Anya security was also in the running, he merely scoffed derisively over the phone to my father. Let her participate. It's merely an opportunity for her to gain some perspective on the realities of business. On the day of the bidding, representatives from each company took turns presenting their meticulously crafted PPTs and seemingly flawless plans in the top-tier conference room of Xingchen Technology. When it was Yi Mingxuan's turn, he was brimming with confidence, eloquently captivating the audience and drawing rounds of applause. As he descended from the stage, he made a point to pass by me, whispering in a tone only we could hear, "Did you see? This is how business is conducted, not through fighting but with intellect." I chose to ignore him. Finally, it was my turn. Amidst the puzzled gazes of the audience, I ascended the stage empty-handed, with no documents or USB drive in tow. Chairman Chen, seated at the head of the table, furrowed his brow and inquired, "Yi, where is your proposal?" I regarded him calmly and replied, "My proposal requires no PPT. It necessitates a live demonstration." As soon as the words left my lips, I snapped my fingers. With a resounding clap, the lights in the conference room extinguished, plunging the space into darkness. Gasps and chaos erupted. In that moment, several individuals disguised as waitstaff sprang into action from the corners of the room, brandishing simulated weapons and charging towards Chairman Chen like leopards. "Protect Chairman Chen!" The representatives and bodyguards from other security firms shouted in alarm, but it was too late. In the darkness, shadowy figures moved with uncanny swiftness, Ghost and his team. They made not a sound. Only the muted thud of impacts and the subtle crack of bones dislocating could be heard. In less than 10 seconds, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room once more. To everyone's horror, the assailants who had rushed the stage lay subdued on the ground, utterly immobilized. The precision and lethality of their methods were astonishing. Chairman Chen remained enscathed in his seat, his attire untouched. Meanwhile, Ghost and his team had seamlessly melted back into the shadows of the room, as if the entire episode had been a mere figment of imagination. The conference hall was utterly silent. A pin could be heard dropping. I stood on the stage, observing Chairman Chen's pale, astonished expression, and slowly said, "Chairman Chen, this is my proposal. Absolute security." Chapter 9. The Pricey Contract, a swift blow to the face. A profound silence ensued. After a prolonged pause, Chairman Chen was the first to rise, his gaze locked onto me, filled with intensity. He began to applaud vigorously. "Excellent. What an embodiment of absolute security." The sound echoed through the spacious conference room, resonating with unusual clarity. The other bidders, including the ashen-faced Yi Mingxian, stood frozen in disbelief. Chairman Chen approached me and extended his hand. "Yi, I am impressed. This contract is yours." He did not glance at any other proposals. Before everyone present, he candidly addressed the other bidders, stating, "Ladies and gentlemen, what you have presented are polished plans and data. However, what Yi has shown me is a sense of security. My chip requires this palpable, tangible assurance." This declaration struck Yi Mingxian like a resounding slap, a stark reminder of the reality he had underestimated. He meticulously prepared his PowerPoint presentation for half a month, only to become the subject of ridicule in front of the entire audience. Before the gazes of many, he was outshone by a person he held in utmost contempt, who seized his most crucial deal in a manner he deemed beneath him. His complexion fluctuated from green to white, eventually settling into a purplish hue reminiscent of liver. He fixed his gaze upon me, his eyes brimming with venomous resentment that seemed almost tangible. I responded with a smile of a victor. The exorbitantly priced security contract, worth hundreds of millions, was effortlessly secured by me. This news spread through the business circles of the capital like wildfire. And Yi Security, this nearly bankrupt company, gained sudden fame.
And I,
Yi Saw, found my name for the first time associated with capability, rather than the crude, barbaric, and scandalous reputation of my family. The news reached the Yi family. Leaf Guohua and Lin Wan, who were enjoying afternoon tea, were so shocked that they shattered their bone china teacups. They had intended for me to be humiliated and ridiculed throughout the business community. Instead, they unwittingly propelled me to great heights, allowing me to soar. The feeling must have been more nauseating than swallowing a fly. Yi Mingxian locked himself in his room, smashing everything he could. Meanwhile, I celebrated with my team at the finest restaurant in the capital. After several rounds of drinks, my satellite phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number from abroad. I answered it. A venerable, yet robust voice emerged from the line. Is this Yi Sa? I am your grandfather, Yi Tianxiong. My hand, gripping the wine glass, paused. This was the elderly patriarch who had been quietly recuperating abroad, indifferent to family affairs, yet the true helm of the Yi family. He could no longer remain still. After a few moments of silence, he spoke in an authoritative tone. Tomorrow, return to the old residence. I wish to see you. Chapter 10. The Elder's Gaze and Final Test. The Yi family's ancestral home is nestled amid the foothills of the western suburbs of the capital. Lacking the opulence of a main villa, it exudes a profound, time-worn atmosphere. In a quaint study, I encountered the legendary helmsman of the Yi family, my grandfather, Yi Tianxiong. Clad in a traditional Chinese tunic, his hair and beard were entirely white, yet he radiated vigor. Seated in a grand chair, he played with 2 walnuts in his hands. Though his eyes were clouded, they were sharp as an eagle's, as if capable of piercing the human heart. He refrained from mentioning the conflicts that had arisen since my return, nor did he inquire about my altercation with Yi Mingzhou or my expulsion of Yi Jiaojiao. It seemed to him that these matters were merely child's play. He gestured for me to sit, getting straight to the point. Mr. Chen's contract was well executed. His voice was calm, devoid of any discernible emotion. Tell me, what are your thoughts? He was not inquiring about my planning of the live demonstration, but rather my vision for the future of the security industry. This was a test from a superior to a subordinate. I refrained from employing any superficial rhetoric. I articulated that the traditional security industry was on the brink of obsolescence. The future of an Yi security lay not in mere guarding, but in becoming experts in risk management. We could provide armed protection, offer commercial intelligence, and even resolve certain troubles that appeared insurmountable, as long as the clients could afford it. My responses were grounded in practical experience and profit, imbued with the survival rules of the underground world and business logic. Simple, blunt, yet effective. Yi Tianxiong listened intently, the walnuts in his hands spinning ever faster. Once I concluded, a flicker of brilliance flashed in his eyes. He realized that this granddaughter, whom he had never met, possessed a commercial acumen and ruthless methods far surpassing those of his indecisive son and his inept grandson combined. The study fell into a silence. After a long pause, he suddenly posed an unrelated question. I have looked into you. In the underground fighting scene of Asia, you hold the codename S. 365 matches, all victories, with a knockout rate of 100%. You stand at the pinnacle of that world, possessing wealth that ordinary people could never amass in several lifetimes. He raised his head, his keen eyes fixated on me. Tell me, with such formidable abilities and such wealth, why would you return to the small pond of the Yi family? This, indeed, was the question he genuinely wished to pose today. An uncontrollable force is a double-edged sword for any family. I met his gaze directly, unwavering. Because I share the Yi surname, just as you do. It is rightfully mine. I paused, a sardonic smile playing on my lips. As for loyalty, my fidelity lies solely with myself. If the Yi family wishes to bask in my glory and share in my triumphs, they had better keep pace with me and not hinder my progress. This declaration was audacious, yet it brimmed with absolute confidence. Yi Tianxiong regarded me for a long, protracted moment. Finally, a satisfied smile broke upon his face, one that had remained stern for a lifetime. He retrieved a small box from his drawer and pushed it towards me. Inside lay a seal carved from exquisite Tianhuang stone, inscribed with the character Xiong. This is my personal seal, he stated. With it, within the Yi group, you can mobilize any resources you desire, including the dismissal of Yi Guohua. He casually entrusted the highest authority of the Yi family into my hands. He was wagering on my ambition, as well as the future of the Yi family. Chapter 11. A desperate gamble. The deadly scheme of the false heiress. My grandfather's authorization detonated like a bomb, causing a stir within the Yi family and the Yi group. Armed with the highest authority, my status within the group soared rapidly. Yi Mingxian found himself gasping for breath under the pressure, as several projects he pursued were directly vetoed or replaced by my more efficient proposals. He became a notorious figure of mockery within the group. Meanwhile, Yi Jiaojiao felt herself teetering on the brink of disaster. She astutely sensed that there was no longer a place for her in this family. Should the situation persist, she and her family would find themselves irredeemably lost. Desperation often drives one to madness. She sought out the Li family, a business rival that had long coveted the Yi family. Moreover, she contacted her biological mother, Zhang Xuelan, the very nurse who had altered our fates in the hospital years ago. A nefarious plan was born in the shadows. My intelligence network, known as the Ghost Team, swiftly intercepted their conspiracy. The scheme was divided into two phases. The first step involved framing me. They intended to smuggle contraband within a shipment of security goods from my company, then anonymously report it to customs and the police. Smuggling is a grave crime that could lead to my disgrace, and even imprisonment. The second step was a ploy of self-harm. Concurrently with the anonymous tip, Yi Jiaojiao would stage an attack by masked assailants. She would inflict injuries upon herself and return to the Yi family, tearfully seeking help from Yi Guohua and Lin Wan. She would claim that I had sent someone to silence her, as she had inadvertently discovered my illicit dealings. This plan was undeniably sinister. It precisely exploited the vulnerabilities of Yi Guohua and his wife, their 18 years of affection for Yi Jiaojiao and their ingrained prejudice and distrust towards me, their unruly daughter. I perused the interception report sent by the Ghost Team and smiled. What a foolish and pitiable drama it was. I chose not to expose them immediately. Instead, I decided to let them proceed with their farce, allowing it to reach its zenith. Then, I would personally dismantle them and everything that lay behind them. Days later, the plan was set in motion. In the dead of night, Yi Jiaojiao, battered and bruised, returned to the Yi family villa in a tattered state. She threw herself into Lin Wan's embrace, weeping heart-wrenchingly. "Mother, save me. It was my sister. She sent people to kill me." Her arms and face were marred by shocking scars, all self-inflicted. Yi Guohua, witnessing the pitiable state of Yi Jiaojiao, trembled with rage, slamming his fist onto the table. This beast! How dare she?
Lin Van Klaçye Yao Titer. Sobing Injon Solabli. Her lips fervently cursing. A devil.
She is nothing but a devil. Guohua, we must report this. Let us immediately call the police and have her arrested. At that moment, Yi Guohua's phone rang. It was a call from the Li family. The voice on the other end urgently informed him that customs had received a tip-off and were conducting a surprise inspection of a cargo ship owned by his company, where a substantial amount of contraband was allegedly discovered. All the evidence had been flawlessly interconnected. In that instant, the last remnants of familial affection that Yi Guohua and his wife held were utterly shattered. They looked at the trembling Yi Jiaojiao in their arms. Filled with boundless guilt and fury, they had come to believe, completely convinced of their adopted daughter's innocence and the malice of their biological daughter. Yi Guohua hung up the phone, his gaze turning icy and resolute. No need to call the police. I will personally convene a family meeting to expel this wretched girl from the Yi family. Chapter 12. The Truth Revealed, Crowned as King Amidst Ruins. The joint operation by customs and the police was swift and decisive. They raided the cargo ship at the port, prying open all the containers. However, they were taken aback to find the ship completely devoid of any illicit items. Apart from the regular cargo, there was nothing amiss.
Meanwhile,
another vessel belonging to the Li family was discovered to be in serious trouble. It turned out that the Phantom team had intercepted the plan well in advance. Before any action could be taken against them, they had cleared the contraband placed on their ship and returned it intact to the Li family's vessel, even adding a little extra. A masterful execution of a grand sleight of hand. Yet, all of this unfolded unbeknownst to those at the Yi family villa, who were preparing to publicly judge me. The living room was filled with distant relatives of the Yi family. Yi Guohua and his wife occupied the principal seats, their faces ashen. Yi Jiaojiao resembled a frightened bird, nestled in Lin Wan's arms, her shoulders trembling pitiably. When I returned, this was the scene I beheld. All eyes were cast upon me with disdain and contempt. The moment Yi Guohua spotted me, he slammed his hand onto the table and rose angrily. "Wretched daughter! How dare you return? Look at what you've done to Jiao Jiao. Your smuggling ship has been inspected. What do you have to say for yourself? Today, before our entire clan, I will expel you from our family. The Yi family has no room for a daughter with such a wicked heart." His words were righteous, filled with anguish. I regarded him as one might a fool. I offered no defense. Instead, I approached the enormous projection screen in the living room, took out a USB drive and plugged it in. Before announcing the verdict, I thought it best to show everyone something intriguing. I pressed the play button. The screen lit up, and a clear video began to play. The footage revealed Yi Jiao Jiao, a representative from the Li family, and another middle-aged woman conspiring in a cafe's private room. Their dialogue was recorded with crystal clarity. At that time, I'll say I was attacked by Yi Sa's people. My parents will surely believe me. That batch of goods must be placed accurately. Once she is captured, she will never rise again. The video continued with surveillance footage of them stealthily placing items into my company's containers. There were scenes of Yi Jiao Jiao in her room, using a small knife to cut her own arm while staring into the mirror. The living room began to stir. Yi Jiao Jiao's face turned pale, drained of color. Yi Guohua and Lin Wan's expressions shifted from anger to shock and disbelief. Yet, this was not the end. The final segment of the video transitioned into an interrogation room. The middle-aged woman, who had conspired with Yi Jiao Jiao, revealed herself to be her biological mother, Zhang Suilan, and began her full confession before the camera. She recounted in detail how, 18 years prior, she had maliciously swapped the two children out of jealousy for Lin Wan's wealth. More damningly, she confessed that Yi Jiao Jiao had known the truth of her origins upon reaching adulthood, but chose to conceal it. Furthermore, she had been secretly using money from the Yi family to support her biological parents and her gambling-addicted brother. In the final moments of the video, Zhang Suilan lamented. Jiao Jiao said that once she completely took control of the Yi family, she would bring me, her father, and her brother to enjoy a life of luxury. The video concluded, and the living room was enveloped in a grave silence. Yi Guohua's body swayed, as if all strength had been suddenly drained from him, and he sank back onto the sofa, his face ashen. Lin Wan's eyes widened in shock, her mouth agape, as if a chicken egg could fit inside. She glanced between the screen and the daughter she had cherished for 18 years, her body beginning to tremble violently. Their beliefs had crumbled. The goodness they had prided themselves on, the familial bonds they had held dear, were shattered in that moment, revealing a colossal farce. And the architect of this chaos, Yi Jiao Jiao, lay crumpled on the ground, pallid and muttering, "No, this isn't real." I slowly walked to the center of the living room, standing amidst the ruins of their shattered spirits. I gazed upon the hypocritical family I had torn apart with my own hands. Observing the two foolish believers whose faith had crumbled and the pitiful jester at the end of her rope, I allowed a cold, victorious smile to emerge. The sound of police sirens echoed from the entrance. I knew they were there to apprehend the Li family and Zhang Suilan, and to crown me. The end. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.